those frenzied days when homes were selling way above asking price and home inspections were waived in order to sweeten an offer? Yeah, well, those days are over, at least when it comes to waiving the home inspection here in Massachusetts. A new law goes into effect today prohibiting that practice. Here to explain how this is all going to work, Anthony Lamacchia, founder, CEO, and broker with Lamacchia Realty. Anthony, always good to see you.
Thank you.
So is that in a nutshell? Basically, if you want to buy a place and say, I'll waive the inspection, you can't do it. And as a homeowner, you can say, you know, if you waive the inspection, that might help. They can't do it either.
Yeah, that's right. So both sides. But the onus is on the seller. The enforcement is on the seller and on the listing brokerage. So as a buyer, you cannot make an offer on a property and say, I won't do an inspection, I'm waiving my inspection. That ability, the ability to do that has been removed by this new law.
There is a way around that, though, is there not?
Well, not really. You can't waive it and put that in your actual offer, because if you make that known, the seller is prohibited from being able to take it. And if the real estate brokers, particularly the listing broker, participates in that, there's a lot of litigation that can happen and things like that, so everybody should stay away from it. Buyers, they should make offers, they should put in the normal contingency that they would, and avoid trying to waive it on the front end or avoid any backroom deals
I was just
or
going to say,
whispering.
no wink-wink deals on that thing.
Listen, in the real practical world, I know the governor might be watching, in the real practical world, I think there'll probably be some talk, but there shouldn't be. The law is clear. It should not be communicated up front. And it certainly should not be communicated via text, email, in the contract, etc., if someone plans to not do a home inspection. Now, it doesn't force a buyer to do a home inspection. It doesn't. I'm a proponent of home inspections, particularly for first-time buyers. They should do them.
Right.
You know, buyers
know what you're getting.
Yes, know what they're getting. They get nervous. Sometimes little things to them feel like big things. They're nervous about money. I remember 20, 25 years ago when I started buying properties, I always did an inspection because I'd be nervous if something was wrong with the property. So I'm definitely a proponent of it. I can't say I love the law because I think it takes the right away from the buyer who wants to waive it, but it is what it is. Now we have to deal with a new form, and we'll make it happen.
We'll get to that in a second. What was the motivation, do you think, behind this being put into place?
Well, the motivation is definitely what you said. I mean, we went through a period of time, particularly in the springs of 2021, 22, and even 23, when inventory was very low, and people were competing for homes, and buyers were saying, well, if no one else is doing an inspection, I'll waive mine too. And people were waiving mortgage contingencies. There was a legitimate frenzy there for about a 2-year period. That's gone away.
Have you heard of stories where people bought a home without an inspection and then there was a major disaster there or something?
Yeah,
so
I have heard some of those stories, and you know, some people make it out to be a bigger disaster than it is. But that does happen on occasion, and that's why I'm a proponent of saying to buyers, hey, do your inspection. The good news now, there really isn't any pressure not to do one, particularly at this time of year. I've talked to you for years about how fall is the #1 time of year to buy a home. You have the most room to negotiate. There's always more sellers than there are buyers in the fall. But hey, we'll handle this and we'll make it happen.
So not a bad thing, though, for buyers. A good protection here for them, for sure.
Yeah, I think it does level the playing field. You know, that was certainly the intent of the lawmakers, to level the playing field. Makes it, as I said, not exactly fair to someone who wants to waive it, but people that want to waive inspections, investors, savvy buyers, those are few and far between in most markets. We went through a frenzy where all of a sudden everyday buyers were waiving inspections, and I can't say I loved that either, but...
Right. You have this now on top of what was restructured for the commission situation.
Yes.
All the paperwork you have to sign. The buyer says, here's what I'll offer, or the seller says, here's what I'll offer. A buyer's agent, there's all kinds of stuff you have to go through there. Now you throw this paperwork on top of it with already existing paperwork when you're buying a home.
Yes.
It really does kind of make it a more taxing situation, doesn't it, for everybody?
It does. The stack of papers when buying a home are getting bigger. The stack of papers, I mean, now when someone signs up with a realtor in Massachusetts to sell their home, the realtor is going to pull this form out now. It's a mandatory home inspection disclosure form. Has to be signed by buyer, seller, and listing broker. And listing brokers, if they know what they're doing, they're going to be pulling this form out at the time of signing up the listing. So, you know, the stack of papers is a lot bigger than it was when I started in 2004.
Right. More and more regulation.
It is. And remember, in Massachusetts, in August, the rental law went into place for rentals. So we're just getting pummeled in our industry with all kinds of new things and regulations.
The broker's fees there going away.
Correct.
Always something going on. Always appreciate you shedding some light on it for us. Anthony Lamacchia, good to talk to you, Anthony.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Let's get it over to Sherry.